Hampshire High School Basketball Show is brought to you by the New Hampshire State Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement.
Right now, it's not about talent, it's about heart. It's about who can go out there and play the hardest, who can go out there and play the smartest. Now, they've been here before, so they're not going to give it to us. We got to go out there and we got to take it.
And now your hosts, Pete Terrier.
But I have a question, though. Those two foul shots, the end of the game, did you miss them? Or did you miss them?
Not exactly a shoot question, is it?
And Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com.
All season long, we played our game. Right now, you're playing theirs. When we step on the floor, every second that clock is ticking, we are pedal to the metal. We run the ball. We pressure the ball. And most importantly, we control the tempo of the game. This is gonna hurt.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show. We do it for you each and every Saturday morning live on the radio during hoop season. Two fine stations here in New Hampshire, News Radio 610 and 96.7. My name is Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com. And David, we are smack dab in the middle of the second annual NHSportsPage.com Coaches for a Cause High School Basketball Jamboree, the preseason really marquee event, although the regular season kind of snuck up on us and started last night through a couple of divisions in Division 3 and Division 4. So happy basketball season, Dave.
Yeah, I know you're serious when you call me David. My ears perk up when somebody calls me David. It's usually when my mom's yelling at me. Yes, we had some good games in Division 3 and Division 4, and last night, the Jamboree was kind of an interesting mix of games, that we're going to get heavily into, but I had a blast last night. I thought the crowds were big. For first night, were bigger than they were. I mean, bigger gym, more spaced out. We have two bleachers as opposed to we had one at Alvern. So I'm expecting today to be a big day. I'm really looking forward. It's fun having the Trinity kids there last night, and I looked at Connor Wallace, and I was like, see you at noon, and and they're coming back. And so today is, we're really excited. I think I speak for all of us. We're really excited about today over at the Jamboree.
We will have a special guest coming in whose team actually tipped off last night, Sam Natty.
Not coming in.
Well, not coming in. Coming on, I should say.
Well, he's listening right now in Landaff going, what? I got to be there?
So his team was in action last night in one of the Division 4 games that were played. Why don't we get down to the scoreboard? As I said, D3 and D4 boys tipped off last night. We did have 3 games at the Coaches for a Cause Jamboree. Dave's got the scoreboard, brought to you, as always, by our friends at the New Hampshire State Liquor Commission, the Division of Enforcement, and their Buyers Beware campaign, reminding all adults it's against the law to provide alcohol to minors. It is the holiday season. I know things get festive in the eggnog and everything, but you just can't do it. It's against the law.
Don't come to our Jamboree and buy booze for kids.
Certainly
Please.
not. I don't think it's on the menu at the Londonderry High School Snack Shack.
I didn't see it on the menu. I was looking late night, but no, it wasn't there. Go through. I'm going to pull up a couple scores from my phone as well. But Campbell with a 76-42 win over Hillsborough Deering. Campbell expected to be one of the best teams in the division. And proved it easily on opening night with a win there. Somersworth with a very close win, 49-47 over Franklin. Vincent Loho with 16 points to lead Somersworth. Kenny Torres with 14. Dana Bean for 13 for Franklin. Rich Osa's first game there, and I think they'll be a much improved team. Littleton rolls, as they will for a lot of the season up north, 61-30 over Gorham. Stevens, this was a kind of a toss-up game. Stevens gets it on the road. This is a good win for Stevens, 58-56 over Kearsarge. Moultonborough with a 43-20 win over Lisbon. The score early in that game was a lot to a little.
21-2, I believe, at the end of one.
I wasn't going to say that. Poor Sam. And so Moultonborough goes to 1-0. Moultonborough's going to be a pretty good team this year in that division. Riley Swedberg had a good game last night. Raymond with a 58-34 win over Sanborn. Andrew Downey with 11 points. Kobe Mallow with 18 points for Raymond. Derryfield 74-51. Derryfield's the one team in Division 4 I couldn't quite figure out where I wanted to put them. I might have put them a little low. I might have put them a little high. We'll find out. But Derryfield, which I had number 4 preseason, with a 74-51 win over Canaan Pittsburgh, which means Canaan Pittsburgh probably got home about a half hour ago. Monadnock with a 69-60 win over. My scoreboard likes to go out when I'm doing it. Monadnock 69-60 over Fall Mountain. Ryan Murdoch with 23 points for Fall Mountain. He's a really good guard. You saw him last year.
I saw him against Campbell in the playoffs.
Good little player. He had 23 last night for Fall Mountain. Groveton. This was I thought the most interesting game of the night. Groveton with a 58-52 win on the road at Woodsville. Corey Gadwa, you're going to be saying next year, you're like, Corey Gadwa, has this kid been in high school for 9 years? Because he started as an 8th grader
last year.
He's a sophomore now. 21 points last night for Corey Gadwa, and they get a win at Woodsville over Jamie Walker's team. 2 top 10 teams preseason. That's a good win for Mark Collins' team there. So 58-52, Groveton with the W. Newport, I had spies out watching Newport Hopkinton who told me that Newport looked exactly what I had written in the preview. More, they ran the offense. They were more structured. They looked good last night. 50-38 road win over Hopkinton. Hopkinton is replacing 4 or 5 new starters, but they only have Riley McNicholas and Luke Luna really back from that team. But they're always tough in that gym, and that's a good win for Newport. Winnisquam was all over Mascoma early. Mascoma's not an easy place to win, but Winnisquam rolled in this one. I had Steve McDonough from Laconia texting me scores all night long. Christian Serrano leads Winnisquam to a big W there. They got a big showdown on Tuesday with a victorious Guilford Golden Eagle team, 1-0. Who's next? I think we have Kansas today, and then I think we're going to play Ohio State on Wednesday. Guilford 49-32 over White Mountains. I'm just going to assume Guilford is up by 30 and then put the bench in and let White Mountains come back. I'm just going to assume that. We're going to go with it.
Your boy Kobe Wilson didn't play, though?
For who? Kobe?
I got my Kobe's mixed up. Kobe Goodwin.
Come on, we're in hoop season. Get up to speed.
Kobe Wilson from Epping.
Kobe Goodwin did not play in that game. He's got a shoulder injury right now, so Guilford's playing a little shorthand. Hopefully he'll be back for Tuesday because that's a big game.
Is your boy Kobe Wilson back?
I think so. I heard it was a minor injury.
Okay.
It's my man.
No, but he's
Kobe
eligible,
Wilson.
Right?
He's eligible. Of course he is. He's going to class. Come on.
That's not what I meant. I mean, he didn't graduate last year.
No, he's a junior.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have 2 more years for him to be my whoopee. Portsmouth Christian 68-47 over Concord Christian. As Portsmouth wins the Battle of Christ. Nice W there for the Big Smooth. I don't know. I didn't know
Holy War.
I didn't know how the hell I was going to do that.
The Holy War.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Farmington with a 58-42 win over Prospect Mountain. My preseason number 1, Wilton Lineborough, 68-35 over Hinsdale. Jordan Litz is for real.
Your player of the year.
Player of the year. Although somebody last night made quite a statement that he might be the player of the year in that division. We'll get into that. Interlakes with a 76-46 win over Newfound. Newfound is going to struggle this season, but so Interlakes beats them by 30 in opening night. And last but not least, Jay Darris Pittsfield team, Xenthius Sear, 41 points on opening night. I'm going to say that he's the leading scorer in the state as of today. 41 points for Xenthius Sear. Cam Dara had 21 points. Pittsfield beats Newt. An improved Newt team, 78-70 on the road. That's a good win there, and that's the scores.
Now, how do you spell Xenthius?
Oh boy,
Xenthios. Yeah, that's an all-name teamer.
Oh yeah, Xenthius here. He's a sophomore.
Yeah,
and Cam Dara is a freshman. So I mean, a lot of these. Sam Natty's best player is a freshman, Josh Woods. So, I mean, a lot of these North Country teams or Division IV teams are playing freshmen and even sometimes 8th graders if they're allowed because of, enrollment and so forth. And so these are going to be names that will be very familiar to Pete Terrier by the next couple of years.
I'll tell you what, I had a week off last week. I'm just kidding, I wasn't on vacation, but you pretty much need a vacation to read Dave Haley's Division III and Division IV previews, which were awesome and full of information, by the way. So I feel very well prepared for the real start of this show, thanks to you and your previews on nhsportspage.com.
Thank you. What I have to do tomorrow is I warned all those coaches last night I'll be calling. Pretty much sitting. I would love to say I'm going to TJ's in downtown Portsmouth to watch the Patriots tomorrow. I will be sitting in my living room watching the Patriots on mute and just talking to coaches all day long. So everybody.
Speaking of
D1
coaches,
and D2.
The Coaches for a Cause Jamboree tipped off last night at Londonderry, High School, and we had 3 games last night. You got the scores for those? Because I got the scores for the last 2 games.
I think I emailed them to Jason King. I think the first game was 44-36, Alvin beating West. I think it was 44-36. It was a rock fight. I remember looking up at halftime. I said, "Is it really like 21-18 at halftime?"
No, it was 18-14 at halftime.
It was at 18-14.
Yeah.
And I think Sunapee Goffstown was like that after the first quarter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that game was Goffstown beat Sunapee 69-59. To me, that was the best game out of the 3 games, easy. And the thing about that one is Goffstown's got some size. I mean, Casey Gervais, the quarterback of the Goffstown football team.
Tough kid.
He is a tough kid. He's in there with Tim Como, another football player, both of them juniors. And then they got the big guy off the bench who John Kesty says, who's that NBA-ready kid? 6'9", Ryan Rogenbuck.
He's not quite NBA ready.
That's what I said to him, but he's at least size-wise.
He at one point posted up a kid from Sunapee who was like probably like 4'11", and he passed the ball back out of the post. I just looked at Nate Stanton. I'm like, we got to get some coaching. I mean, they got a good coach over there, Mark Elmendorf. He does a great job. We got to get that kid more aggressive.
Well, I mean, he's improved a lot. The footwork over last year, I saw him.
Yeah.
You know, it was a big, slow kid, but you know he's imposing. And they got another kid, this kid Rob Girardin. He's 6'4", coming off the bench. They got a bunch of good, athletic, swing men.
Yeah.
Got kids like Matt Shaw and Ben Bars, and real good shooters in Marcus Haynes and Mike Bailey. That's a pretty good team. But the story for me of that game last night was the 59 points by Sunapee. 2 players scored them all, and everybody at that gym was raving about Isaiah Chappelle, who had 33 in the game. And then his backcourt mate, Matt Tenney, had 26. So they combined for all 59 Sunapee Laker points.
And I was talking to Sam last night, and I was saying, and they weren't running around, taking fall away, with 18-footers with 2 guys on them. I mean, they were taking good shots. They were fantastic last night.
Yes.
I mean, they were. I told them afterwards. I mean, it may sound silly, but I was proud of them. I mean, they all. Now we can say it since the night's over. I was worried about Friday night's games. I was a little concerned. And Sunapee had a couple kids they thought were going to come out for the team, not come out. And then they had Jesse Stifler, who was their best 3-point shooter. He went to Newport. So I was a little concerned, and they've had a rough preseason. But Ed Tenney did a really good job with them last night. And I'll tell you, if he has them, he gets those kids in the right spots and gets a kid who just his only role is just to rebound, or his only role is on these sets to set these high ball screens, or the certain role. I'm going to be the defensive guy. I'm going to be the whatever. If these guys get their role and learn where they need to be on the floor, I'm talking about the other.
You mean like
guys.
Last year's Sunapee team had those guys?
No, the last year's Sunapee team had Nick Scarron, who was a really good defensive player. They had
but that was his role.
Yes, but he was better than that. I mean, I put him on mention at All-State. And then they had James Fitzgerald, who was a scorer. And then they had Stifler, who shot threes and did the double guns every time he hit a three. But if they get the kids, they are going to be a nightmare. As I said in last week's show, those 2 kids are suspended for the first 4 games, which I don't agree with, but it is what it is. So look at Newt. Newt scored 70 last night. They're not going to beat Newt without those 2, okay? You saw what they have besides those 2, okay? So they're going to go 0-4. They're going to lose to Newmarket. They play Newmarket today without those guys. And so they're going to go 0-4. So they are an absolute nightmare if you're a 1 seed. If you're Littleton and you're Trevor Howard and you're the 1 seed, and then who comes rolling in the quarterfinals? But those 2 kids, and Isaiah Chappelle pulls up from 25 in the first possession of the game, and you're going, oh, man. I got to deal with this in the quarterfinals.
And then on the second possession, he's blowing past you to the rack with a finger roll.
Finger roll. On the first possession last night, he up-faked. He was going to drive hard. He backed it up. The kid from Goffstown came at him. His weight kind of came at Isaiah. Isaiah blew by him and finger rolled at the rim. I'm like, oh, boy, here we go. And it was a show. And I mean, and let's not take anything away from Matt Tenney, who ran that offense. And by the way, they were the 2 rebounders. They were rebounding for them. I mean, honestly, it was like they were doing everything for them. I mean, it was incredible. And this was a 61-57 game. The final score was 10. The final margin was 10 points. People might be listening and say, oh, well, it was an 18-point game and they hit a bunch of threes. No. It was 61-57 against a Goffstown team that, a lot of people think is easily a top 10 team in Division II. So it was incredible, and that's what the Jamboree is about, honestly, is seeing teams from different divisions face each other and how they'll do. And it was the best part of the night. Cole Brown, unfortunately, could not hang at all with Londonderry. No. That thing was over quickly. Londonderry looks Cody Ball is really good. And we saw Coach Dixon from St. A's. We got. I think it was John. He's like, hey, we got college coaches here now at the Jamboree.
It was Keith Dixon from St. A's, Bert Hamill from Merrimack College, who I understand has already offered him a partial scholarship.
Yeah.
And Ball put on a show, 24 points in the game for Londonderry. Mark Corey was also very good. He had 13. His little brother, Matt Corey, the freshman, had 9, all of them on threes off the bench, 75-45. The Lancers win. The score in that West Alvern game, Alvern did win 44-36, like you said. For Alvern, Evan Hunt led the way, had 13 points. Danny Brown looked pretty good. Sam Bonnie Lyles did some things.
Who has a new nickname that's been created?
What is it?
It's the Twitter. It's the internet assassin. The Twitter assassin.
Is he
we call
a killer
him.
on Twitter?
That's my man. I don't mess with him.
West, they have some athletes. They got some size
They're
too.
big.
And they got another all-name teamer. Moni Tung Maker, Motun Maker.
He's very raw, but boy,
6'7".
He's good. I mean, he a couple times he zigs when you want him to zag, but I mean he's big, he's long, and he had some nice plays last night too for them.
It reminds me of Wenyan Gabriel, a young Wenyan Gabriel from Trinity. They got another kid, 6'6", Keenan Karen. Nione is back. Zach Jones.
Zach Jones is very good. Zach Jones had a nice dunk. He got called for hanging on the rim. I told him afterwards, I'm like, it was fun to watch though.
Yeah, it was. It was.
He was a very nice kid after the game. I talked to him. Yeah.
All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll look ahead to some of the games that are going to happen today. 5 more games at Londonderry High School, and it starts at noontime. So a lunchtime special, Trinity and Pelham. That's a heck of a basketball game. And then 4 more games after that. We'll talk about that. We also got Sam Natty, head coach of Lisbon, coming on about 8:35 or so. He'll talk some D4, and this is a guy that can break down.
We're going to talk Jamboree with him.
All the games. Yeah. I mean, he knows all these teams. He goes to a lot of games. He's the
coach at Londonderry.
Oh, he was? I did not know that.
So you.
Okay, so that'll be good to talk to him about the differences between D4, especially North Country D4, and D1 basketball at Londonderry High School. When we return to the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show, News Radio 610 and 96.7.
From Manchester West to Winnicott, Central to Somersworth, and Portsmouth to Plymouth, this is the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show on News Radio 610 and 96.7.
Well, one of those schools that we just mentioned is in action on day 2 of the second annual Coaches for a Cause High School Basketball Preseason Jamboree, presented by NHSportsPage.com. That game involves the Portsmouth Clippers and the Central Little Green. It is our nightcap, so to speak, 6 o'clock. But the action starts at noon today with the game that I'm most interested in seeing, I think, Trinity from Division I against D3 Pelham, and Pelham, not a Division III team. I mean, they're there because they've been placed there because of enrollment, but this is a good basketball team, and I went out on the show last week and predicted Pelham will beat Trinity today. Did I do that in front of Matt Lemieux when we had him on? The coach from Trinity.
I don't know if you did that in front of Matty.
I probably didn't.
I don't think you did. I talked to Matty last night about it. I remember last year I predicted Pelham was going to beat Merrimack, and then after the game, when I interview, you see John, Kesty, and Jen are going to put together a great highlight package. We're going to have 2 separate Friday night games and then the Saturday games. And it's really cool. I think we're doing some new stuff with the highlight package. But anyway, last year I said that Pelham was going to beat Merrimack. And then when I went in to talk to Tim Goodrich after they beat Pelham, he said, hey, everybody, guys, this is Dave Haley. This is the guy who picked Pelham to beat you. And the whole room I just sit there laughing. It was great. So it'll be interesting. Trinity just lost a close scrimmage to Brady. And Pelham lost to Pembroke the other night.
Right.
Close. And they lost to Portsmouth as well, but close. I mean, very close.
So Pelham, one of the powers in D3. I think D3 is very, very loaded this year. Trinity, they're rebuilding, let's face it. I mean, from the top down.
Yeah.
New coach, Matt Lemieux.
Justin Trinkett, that's the name.
Trickett?
Trickett, yeah, Trickett. Justin Trickett is the kid.
He's the kid that he said to watch out for. And you said some Trinity kids were there. You saw Connor Walsh there last night.
Yeah.
I didn't notice.
Connor was there. I think Testa was there. Yeah, I think a bunch of those guys were there. And, Yeah, and Connor said, "Playing the noon game," and I said, "Yeah." It's like that's the way it is. They, the Trinity kids, they're used to the prime time games. But I mean, this is. I mean, some people like you say,
Carmen Giamtruzzi is not walking through that door.
Yeah, that's right. Brad Rhodes.
Neither are any Gabriels.
Wenyan Gabriel's not walking through that door. Yeah, it's right off the bat. I think today's games are even a better lineup than we had last year on Saturday. I mean, I'm really excited for it.
Second game of the day, scheduled tip time 1:30.
This one I'm really excited for.
BG against Berlin.
Yeah,
and I'm very, very interested to see how much of the town of Berlin takes the journey south to Londonderry, New Hampshire, for that epic rivalry, Bishop Girton and Berlin. I bet you in hockey, that was probably a really good rivalry in hockey not too long ago.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know, but all I know is that Berlin has got good size. And they have, Levi Arsenal is a man out there. Nick Fedor is. I did a fundraiser with those guys, and Nick Fedor, I was talking to him. I mean, he's legit 6'4", 6'5". I mean, he's a big kid, and they got a couple other kids, Chris Lampier. Who are big, physical, tough Berlin kids. As Dave Chase once said, in Berlin, you either play sports or you get a job. And those kids, go out and they play sports. They're tough kids. And watch for Evan Arsenal today, freshman, who Coach Dave Morissette is taking over for my friend Don Picard, who's coaching his.
And this isn't Dave Morissette from Riviera.
No, it's a
Riviera
different.
University.
He has not left Riviera to take over Berlin. No, that would be a very controversial move early in the season. Evan, he thinks that Evan Arsenal could be a real special player for them down the line. He doesn't want to say too much publicly, but he's like, this kid could be real good.
So is Curtis Arsenal the best Arsenal? And he's playing at Plymouth State.
He's playing at Plymouth State. He's been starting since then. He went to Exeter. He's been starting since he got to Plymouth State up there with Alex Burt. He was playing with Logan Kesty up there too. So Evan's going to be, I think, kind of the future over there too. And they got Tommy Gallagher, who's a good guard for Berlin. So and BG, I think where they could have trouble, Berlin. I told him, I said, I think Jack Zimmerman, big, strong guard, much improved.
I heard
BG.
he's 6'2" now.
Yeah, he's gotten bigger and he's physical. Like he's a strong kid. He's the kid. Obviously they got Kyle Gavin. I mean, BG's going to be. Mike Rinko is a good-looking sophomore. So I mean, BG's BG. I mean, Jimmy Mignault does a good job, and they always have talent.
And he's got 15 kids on the roster, and he'll play them all tonight. He'll get them in and out. The middle game today is a very interesting game, too. Manchester Memorial against Keith Maddie's Lebanon Raiders, and KJ Maddie, who is now a super sophomore after that fantastic freshman season last year where Lebanon made it to the Final Four in D2. But the big controversy that broke out when people started getting a hold of those rosters, the game programs for the Jamboree last night, you look on that Memorial roster, no name that is very difficult to pronounce.
There's actually two missing.
Kabongo Nalakalandi is not on the Memorial roster.
And neither is Wade Gopp.
Oh, you're right. Wade Gopp's not on there either. I noticed.
Maddie Lemieux pointed that out to me.
So
I don't know what.
Two of their big returners from last year not on the roster.
I don't know what that means.
Does it mean they're not on the team? I don't know.
We got to wait till they walk in. I know that Lebanon is treating this like a regular season game. Like they want to prepare and they want to see where they are. Conant did that last year, and the reason is, and this is why this Jamboree is really good, you want to measure yourself and say, okay, how far are we from, because Memorial is arguably one of the top 5 teams in the state of New Hampshire.
Not without Kabongo.
No, well, we don't.
Or Gopp.
Yeah, let's see what happens. I mean,
they do have Mon. Trayvon Mon is in fact on the roster.
I'm saying with all their guys, they are.
Yes.
So I don't know. Yeah, they're not on that roster. And Jack Quirk just sent it to us like 2 days ago. So I don't know what's going on. But Lebanon is going to press 90 feet, and they're going to pressure. And Austin Whaley is a real good guard for them. And then
like him.
Ryan Milliken, the running back, he's a good little player. He's a little guy, but he's tough. Like he finishes. Like he's a bull on defense. I watched Lebanon up there practicing, again, doing fundraising for those guys, and they got a good little team. They're not big, but boy, they have athletes, and Keith does such a good job with them. They're in the right spots,
How about this game? 4:30 tip time. Powerhouse basketball programs from the lower divisions until this year when Pembroke moved up to D1. But your first look at Matalosa wearing a beard. I don't know if you saw the Concord Monitor.
Beard?
I don't know if you saw the Concord Monitor article written by Ray Duckler, but they got a picture of Matalosa full beard. Not talking one of the Dynasty beards.
It's like Ron Burgundy when he got fired.
It's a beard. And Matalosa's sporting it. I hope to God he's still sporting it this afternoon when we see him. But very interesting game, Pembroke against Conant.
The one thing I'm worried about is Josh DeGrenier, the best player for Conant, hurt his foot the other night in practice. So I heard it was day-to-day. We're going to find out. Hopefully, I'll probably text Eric Sauce, or maybe he'll be listening. He'll text me. But I really hope he plays, because they're going to be in trouble if he doesn't play. Pembroke is very big. Dominic Timbus had 24 the other night. He's playing guard. And Max Kern is kind of, Jekyll and Hyde. He'll have a big game, and then, if somebody guards him a certain way, he can be ineffective. Rob Wilson's playing well for them. Dante Timbus is a 6'3", 6'4" guard. Pembroke's going to be very good in Division I this year. They're coming in, guns blazing.
And this is the final game of the night, but I see blowout written all over it. Manchester Central.
You do?
Against Portsmouth. Yes, I do.
I disagree. Here's why. It's Central's first scrimmage. They haven't even played a scrimmage yet. And Portsmouth's already had 2 scrimmages. And Portsmouth beat Pelham. And Portsmouth is very young. The only thing is if Jim Mulvey decides he's just not going to run any plays. I'm not even kidding. Like, if he says, I'm not going to show anybody anything, and he doesn't.
Knowing Jim as well as you know
goes
him.
Vanilla. I mean, I
Isn't
hope
that what he's going to do?
I hope he doesn't, because, listen, he's forgotten more about basketball than I'll ever know. But this is a chance to test yourself against the best team in the state and see how you stack up. And if you don't show them, what they're opening up with West. I mean, let's just say I hope he runs some really clever stuff, and I hope they pull it out. And because of our coaches show this summer, he and Doc have become friends, so it'll be fun to watch those guys go to toe. I disagree with you. I don't think that's going to be a blowout.
And one thing that you might notice when you see the roster for Central, Amaru Conte, who was the Memorial point guard the last couple of years. I think he was off the team at the end of the year last year.
He was.
But he has transferred to Central, so he's on that team. He's a senior. Joey Martin is back. Watch out for Evan McDonald, John McCory, another good player from Central. Not the same type of Central team that we saw last year, obviously, but I think they're still going to be very, very good.
They won the Fall League.
Yeah, they're going to be very good.
Breaking news from Concord, New Hampshire. Josh DeGrenier will start today for Conant.
Thank you, E-Sauce. We
Thank
really
you,
appreciate
E-Sauce,
it,
my
Coach.
man.
You know how you hear that, the Inside the NFL show on HBO? The show the pros watch. Well, the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show. The show the coaches listen to.
Yeah,
and watch on nhsportspage.com. We got to take a timeout. We'll come back with Sam Natty. Where did you say he lives? Landaff.
I've been to his house.
Any relation to Gandalf? Going
to his house. This is like one of my really good friends. Going to his house is like going to Batman's cave. Like, you can't figure out how you got there once you're there. It's crazy.
We'll talk to Coach Natty. We'll get the breakdown. I really am interested to see what the big difference is he sees, having coached at Londonderry in Division I and now coaching a team up in the North Country in Division IV. Sam Natty from Lisbon joins us next on the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show, News Radio 610 and 96.7.
Welcome back to the best local coverage of New Hampshire high school basketball. The New Hampshire High School Hoop Show on News Radio 610 and 96.7.
Well, I could let the Scorpions sing it out, but I'll say it. There's no one like you, Sam Natty, head coach of Lisbon, coming off a loss last night on opening night. We appreciate you coming on the phone and joining us to talk about that and all things New Hampshire high school hoops. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Morning. How are you, Pete? How's the weather down there?
The weather is great. The weather is great.
Come on, ask him. Come on, you're dying. Ask him.
I'll beat you to it this time.
Dave told me that one of the things that he hates about me, especially when we got a North Country coach, when I ask him, what's the temperature up there?
Actually, it's warm out today. It's 28 degrees up here.
Oh, man, it's like springtime. Spring has sprung.
Yeah.
So, Coach, your team, one of the teams that started off last night, you had to go on the road to the Lakes region, Moulton Borough, and face a tough team, and they took it to you. I saw a tweet from, I think, Jeff LaJoy last night after the first period, and it was 21-2 Moulton Borough on top of your Lisbon team. And I was like, oh, should be a fun conversation tomorrow with Coach Natty. You end up losing it 43-20, but your takeaways from the first game of the season?
We just don't play hard enough yet. We've got some talent there. I mean, I think we could turn into a team that, scares you in the first round of the playoffs. But it was just a difference. Last time Moulton Borough came out, they played hard. We didn't. And, we're learning. I got a lot of young guys. I had a freshman point guard last night. Didn't find out he was going to be our starting point guard until we were halfway, to Moultonborough, because I had a couple of guys that couldn't make the trip. So it's first night and it's over with, and we'll move on to Woodsville on Tuesday and see what happens there.
Why do you, you and I talked about this a lot. Why do you think, and it sounds like the dogs are excited that you're on radio, which I'm happy.
Oh, it's a big event up here in Landau. Dogs are going crazy. Ava's up listening to you.
They, with the Snoopy doll I bought her, there is a big difference this year in the South and the Northern teams. And, Trevor, I thought, had a great quote in the preview where he's saying, I just think enrollment. Because, again, I think people don't realize Groveton and Colebrook used to be the two biggest teams enrollment-wise in Class S when they were winning all those titles. And two great coaches and enrollment equals championships. How do you won a championship 2 years ago? And I look back at it and think, if Lisbon doesn't shock Newmarket, and then frankly kind of shock Derryfield, then maybe we would have seen this coming 2 years earlier. You know what I mean? Because maybe Derryfield won 2 years ago, and then you have Epping win last year. But have you seen this coming for a couple of years?
Yeah, I think it started 5 or 6 years ago. I think when the old Class M schools started coming down, because like you said, Colebrook, Groveton were the biggest schools up here, but there were only about 200 students. I know this sounds crazy, anybody that lives in Manchester listening to this, but 200 students was a lot for our division. Lisbon, giving us as an example, we have 120 in the high school. I have 15% of the male population of the high school playing basketball.
Wow.
So you go to a bigger school, you don't get that. And schools, they're small enough now that, schools up here can be good when you have good players, but you just don't get the numbers for it. So there's always going to be some down years in between. Where these bigger schools down south now that have JV programs and have a bunch of guys that play, they can develop guys their freshman and sophomore year, and then they move into it. So that's kind of the problem we're dealing with. But if we've got guys that can play, we can still play with anybody.
Is it normal? We were talking about Corey Gadwa, who had 21 last night. I mentioned Josh Woods, who may be your best scorer at this point. Is it normal for this many 8th graders and 9th graders? Talked about Cam Dara, Zenthia Sear. You go through the scores every Saturday morning, and you got freshmen, even sometimes 8th graders. Is that normal? And you think that's part of it too? It's just all part of one big enrollment.
Yeah,
problem?
well, I think you can bring up 8th graders if you don't have enough guys on your varsity program. So these guys, they can play. Corey Gadwell is a good player. Cam Dara can play. But these guys get an opportunity that you normally wouldn't get. And the difference is, if you're a freshman in a Division I program, you're going to play on the freshman team, at best the JV team. It's very rare to have a freshman on the varsity team. And schools up here, if you're a freshman, you're playing varsity. There is no JV. So, you have to sink or swim a lot sooner than you would down south. So, no, seeing an 8th grader or a 9th grader is not uncommon.
Sam Natty from Lisbon is our guest. His team losing last night, their opener 43-20 at Moultonborough. Coach, I want to find out the mindset that you have. You win a championship, as Dave mentioned a couple of years ago, led by a great player in Chad Knighton, who was a sophomore when you guys won the championship, and you were thinking,
he was a junior.
Oh, he was a junior. Okay. So you would have had him for one more year, but he went to prep school, and then last year you struggled through a 2-16 season. How difficult was last year for you, having, reached the heights of a championship and then basically struggling to win any games at all last year?
First half of the year was brutal. We weren't competitive that often. We got blown out a lot. We had too many guys. We literally started from scratch. We didn't have, I think we had like 3 guys return that even got into games, and it was ugly for a while. But the second half of the season, we started to play better. We were competitive in some games. We got a couple of wins. So, once you can see progress, then there's the light at the end of the tunnel. But there was a while where it was just dark all the time, and that was tough.
Do you agree with me that Sunapee is a nightmare if you're a high seed when we're going to get to March?
Oh, I wouldn't want to see them because they've got 2 guys that can. 2 guys kept it against Goffstown last night. There's some good teams in our division, but there's no Goffstown. So you go into a high school gym in the quarterfinals, and like I've heard you say, Chappelle comes down, hits a 30-footer to start the game. That crowd's going to get silent fast.
Well, talk about him a little bit. I know that you've seen him play. I remember being at the Sunapee, Derryfield game, and you were there watching the game. And this kid is spectacular. He's little, but so fast. And
he's strong.
He
is
strong for a small kid who's 6 feet tall and rail thin. But, man, this kid is like as quick as anybody I've seen in New Hampshire in a while.
I think he and Tenney could, and I think Tenney doesn't get a lot of the credit he deserves because Chappelle's the one that everybody focuses on. But Tenney is a pretty solid player himself, and I think those two might form the best backcourt in the whole state. If not, they're in the discussion, and they can just do things that other guards in our division can't do. And as they showed last night, they're elite guards in New Hampshire, regardless of the division. So it'll hurt them playing Division IV basketball this year a little bit because the pace of play is going to be a lot slower. So they're not going to get as many possessions a game, but they get cut loose. They showed what they can do.
So let's go to today's Jamboree. Hopefully you're going to be stopping by. And I saw the weather, so no excuses for you. There's going to be an emotional meeting between you and McIsaac at half court. We're going to play special music and everything. By the way, the music was McIsaac was so excited last night because he played Shoop by Salt and Pepper or whoever thinks Shoop, and like kids were dancing. I was like, get a jumbotron for these kids, like the Londonderry.
That's a bold play for a boys' Jamboree.
Yeah, well, Seth Guerin and some of the other guys there were like, this music's terrible. And I said, the fact that you hate it makes me think I'm doing something correct here. But so first game of the day, I'm going to name the first 3 games, and I just want to hear your thoughts on these games. First game of the day is Trinity against Pelham. Second game of the day is Berlin. I can't wait to hear what you say about this one. Berlin against Bishop Girton, and then Lebanon is taking on Manchester Memorial. Like, what are your thoughts as a fan, coming to watch those games?
I think anybody that goes to the noon game, if you look at it as a Division I team playing a Division III team, you'll be shocked. But Pelham, as everybody knows, is far from a Division III team. They're a Division I team in a Division III league. And, I think they'll beat Trinity by 8 or 10 today because they've got kids that can really play. Trinity's rebuilding. So if you look at it from that aspect, I think they're the favorite. If you look at it D1, D3, you might be surprised.
You might not know who's D1 and who's D3.
Right, yeah. Because I think Pelham would, they would certainly be in the race for 2 home games in Division I this year. And they got moved down in late. I think Matt said in the preview it wasn't the team's choice, it was the school's choice. So that one, I think that one, if you look at divisions, is going to be a little different than it normally would.
What do you think about BG Berlin?
Seeing that my North Country homerism is probably close to your Guilford homerism, I think Berlin's going to surprise a lot of people. I think in the end, if we're talking wins and losses, BG probably pulls it out because they're going to play 15 guys and run 100 miles an hour the whole game. But Berlin's going to get down there and find out that they can play a little more aggressively than they probably can up north normally. And you cut Fedora and Arsenal loose, and they're going to throw some guys around. And I think they're going to surprise some people because they've got a lot of size and strength. But
I told Levi, I said, hey, you can be physical. You can push around these D1 guys. They won't call it. And he just got this big smile broke out.
They're going to find they're old-fashioned North Country boys. They're strong.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Well, and I think what will eventually happen is they'll wear it down. The big difference between D1 and the lower divisions is depth. Usually, you've got kids that can play, but Berlin, you get down into 8, 9, 10th on their bench, and there's going to be a little drop off. For BG, there may not be that drop, and I think that'll be the difference.
And Pete says we got to take a break, but this is about to be the lowest moment of my radio career. But McIsaac wants everyone to know it was Push It by Salt and Pepper and not Shoot.
Well, I was wondering why it wasn't Push It because of the Geico
there
commercial.
It goes. I've hit rock bottom right now. There we go. I just said Push It by Salt and Pepper on the radio.
We won't hold that against you.
All right, I'll ask you one more quick one. Pembroke Conant. Conant is obviously not the same team, and Coach Saucier is making a point to let everybody know this ain't the same team that we've had over the last few years. We're young, and it's going to be a rebuilding year. But your thoughts on that particular game? Because I think that one is very, very interesting.
Oh, I think anything involving Pembroke at this point is interesting. But like I said, Conant, it's not the Conant teams that we've seen. They're young, they're rebuilding. I think if Conant was bringing the team that played Central last year, I think it would be a lot closer. Because the biggest issue is Pembroke has a ton of size, and that's tough. Like you talk to Division I coaches, they're talking about their 6'6", 6'7" center. You go to Division III or IV, it's like your 6'1" center, or your 6'2" center. I think that's going to be the difference in that game because Conant obviously can execute and they can play, but when you've got to guard three guys that are 6'6" or bigger, that's going to be tough.
Yeah, and we know both schools will bring some fans because they have very, very good support, Pembroke and Conant. Hey, Sam, thanks so much. We appreciate you coming on. I'm sure the temperature's at least at freezing by now. You know, we've had you on for 15 minutes or so. It goes up a degree every minute. But we'll see you this afternoon down at your old stumping grounds in Londonderry, and we look forward to it.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, Sam. Sam Natty, head coach of the Lisbon Panthers, as they lose their first game last night. He's coming to check out the second day of action. 5 games, Coaches for a Cause Jamboree, Londonderry High School, all tips off at noon. Take a quick time out. We'll come back, wrap up the show, the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show, continuing on News Radio 610 and 96.7.
These guys know their high school basketball. It's the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show with Pete Terrier and Dave Haley on News Radio 610 and 96.7.
Heading up towards the top of the hour, 9 o'clock, wrapping up the show. I just want to give a shout-out and a congratulations to Sean McDonald and the UNH football team, who was victorious last night in the FCS quarterfinals at Cowell Stadium, 35-30 over the Mocs of Chattanooga. And they move on to the national semifinals for the second year in a row.
That's awesome.
The game will be either next Friday night or next Saturday at some point, and they will find out who they're going to play sometime late today. Either Eastern Washington, who is the 4 seed in the tournament, or the 5th seed, Illinois State. And we were trying to figure out if Illinois State is where Jimmy Garoppolo played quarterback, or if it's Eastern Illinois or whatever. But congratulations to UNH. I only saw the second half of this game, and they had a crazy like Chip Kelly type of play where they had like 3 or 4 reverses and pitchbacks, and then they threw, it eventually got back to the quarterback, Sean Goldrich, who threw sort of a wide receiver screen to R.J. Harris, and he took it 61 yards down the sideline, but it was like, he pitches it to this guy. This guy's coming on the reverse. It was crazy, but congratulations to UNH. It would be awesome to see them playing for a national championship.
Oh, yeah. A lot of kids we covered in that game are playing for UNH. Yeah.
Well, isn't Kaplan, that kid Matt Kaplan, who was the defensive lineman who's been wreaking havoc, isn't that the Franklin coach's son?
Yeah.
Patch Kaplan?
Yeah.
Is he the
Patch Kaplan's his brother.
He's the brother.
Yeah.
Probably the next one going to UNH. But what's the Franklin coach's first name?
I think it's John Kaplan.
Yeah.
Or Coach Kaplan. Yeah.
I mean, that's local talent.
Oh, yeah. A lot of the kids, Jake Kennedy's over there, and Rick Holt, and obviously Trevor Knight, and a couple of the Plymouth kids are over there, Reesert and so forth. So, yeah, there's a bunch of those kids over there. Valis is over there, you know what I mean, a quarterback.
Yeah.
We covered him at BG.
Yeah, so that's exciting to watch, and I look forward to them. And I'll actually be interested. I know we'll be at the Jamboree this afternoon, but I'll be interested to see, who comes out of that game, Eastern Washington or Illinois State. And like I said, that game's either going to be Friday night or sometime on Saturday, but it's going to be in Durham, which is very, very cool. Dave, that's all the time we have. I want to thank Sam Natty from Lisbon for coming on the air. Don't forget, Day 2, Coaches for a Cause, Jamboree, and the proceeds from this thing benefit New Horizons for New Hampshire, the Soup Kitchen, Food Pantry, the Homeless Shelter. You hear a lot about that organization, and Charlie Sherman's done a great job and getting involved with this Jamboree. And last year we sent thousands of dollars to New Horizons. So if you come, $5, you get all the games, all 5 games. It's just $5, one admission fee, and the money's going to help a good cause. We'll see you out there at Londonderry High School starting at noon with Trinity and Pelham.